You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Is it the playoffs yet? It's the Monday edition. Nick Alberga and Jay Rosehill. How we feeling, Rosie?
I'm fine. How are you? Is the sky falling or what?
No, not really, honestly. I'm just I'm looking forward to the Stanley Cup playoffs. We're still, over a month away. I'm still picking apart the pieces from Friday. Went out on Friday night, got a little banged up for St. Patty's. I couldn't do it on Sunday because I told you off air we had our beer league playoffs. It started on Sunday, so I was responsible. I went out on Friday, but at this age, it's like a 2-day hangover, sadly.
Yeah, I know the feeling. I've been backing off of those there. No fun, no bueno. But the Leafs game, a lot of sad faces, a lot of big negative reactions I noticed, which I was so surprised to see.
Yeah, social media is a tire fire at the best days, on the best of days, I should say. And just the roller coaster of emotions that comes with following the Leafs, being a Leafs fan, where you could feel so high after that Philadelphia game, and then you blow a 4-2 lead with 3 minutes left against Carolina. And it's like, here we go again. The sky is falling. But maybe you can speak to the fact that we're 5 weeks away from the Stanley Cup playoffs. I don't think this team is going anywhere in the standings, up or down. They know they're going to start on the road. It was just one of those nights, and we're going to get into it. But I didn't leave that game thinking the sky was falling. I don't know if you felt any differently.
Yeah, good. No, I wasn't either. It wasn't the end of the world to me. It looked ugly on paper, but if you watch the game, I think there was, um, you're one empty net shot away from it being 5-2, and everyone's talking about how consistent they are and how they're getting, looks from everybody and you look better and look at Sammy and everyone's freaking glowing review. One empty net shot from Nylander away from that, but he misses. And yes, you could point at a million different things: a lucky tip, a shitty call, a power play, 6-on-4, blah, blah, blah. And they lose, and then it's just, this is it's like, if the margins are that thin, you're doing something wrong, and I don't really agree with it. I think it was kind of a wild game against a good team. Biggest thing I took away is you got to bury on your chances. They gave us so many breakaways and all kinds of opportunities to bury that game, which we didn't quite do, and that was kind of my only takeaway. Other than that, I just think it was an overreaction when people were losing it.
The biggest thing I took away is that Freddy Andersen is scared of the Toronto Maple Leafs. The guy didn't even dress in that game. I don't know what it is since he joined the Carolina Hurricanes, and maybe my math is off. I think he's only played a couple games against the Leafs. For some reason, the rotation they run, it never seems to land on Andersen when the Leafs play them. I know Sunday's coming up. I guarantee they'll put him out there. The Leafs are in a back-to-back. They'll put him in a favorable spot to succeed. But Pyotr Kochetkov was a big story for sure on Saturday. It's just kind of interesting that Andersen never actually plays the Leafs, eh?
Yeah, it is. I wonder. I played with Andersen, and he was younger, but he was just he was a little bit inconsistent, where he could lose his confidence and just be kind of terrible, to be honest. And then when he was good, he was so goddamn good. So it was a little bit of a yo-yo up and down, but I don't know, maybe the powers that be just don't feel like he would flourish in that situation with a million media questions and everyone talking to him, and there's just a big fat spotlight on him. I don't think they must think that that doesn't set him up for success, so they keep him out. Or maybe it's just coincidence, but it's hard to think that it would be that.
What did you think of Evgeny Kuznetsov's comments on the weekend about Ilya Samsonov and, pretty much blasting the Toronto media, saying, you guys have been so hard in general on the players here. I'm so happy he doesn't speak English well, so he doesn't understand everything. Well, how do you feel about that, Rosie?
Well, I mean, I don't think that's a secret that it's hard on a goaltender. It's on the Toronto Maple Leafs. It's been well documented. It's been like that for a long time. I think it's a big reason why they haven't won in 50, 60 years. They've had better rosters than a lot of other teams that have gone deep. So why don't the Toronto Maple Leafs? It's difficult in that market, difficult with that media, difficult with that scrutiny. So especially with the goaltender, he kind of voiced his displeasure, and I don't know if I would point to the media as why he struggled early on in the year, but those guys stick together, and he made his comments, and he's not wrong. But it's a difficult place to play. That's not a big newsflash to anybody.
Yeah, and I guess Kuznetsov can say that because he's won a Stanley Cup, so he knows how to get to that pinnacle and above the pinnacle, and I get that. But he's also, defending his countryman in Ilya Samsonov, who again I thought was pretty good over the weekend. So that was a nice little add to the storyline on Saturday between the Leafs and the Carolina Hurricanes at the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube, where you can subscribe. You're watching right now. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button. Least Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast as well. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. That would be fantastic. Brought to you by DoorDash. It's time for the appetizer. For a limited time, our listeners can get 25% off up to $10 in value and 0 delivery fees on their first order of $15 or more when you download the DoorDash app. Enter code NATION25. That's code NATION25, uppercase for that, by the way. 25% off your first order with DoorDash. Offer valid in Canada, subject to change. Terms apply. So, the Leafs are up late in that game. We've seen that rodeo before. I didn't think either team was great on Saturday. I don't know if you felt differently. It was a weird night for me.
Yeah, it was. It was a lot of turnovers. I was surprised to see the Leafs turnovers were higher than the Hurricanes. I mean, you look at Rod Brind'Amour throughout the middle of that game. He was just like, "What is going on, man?" Like their defensemen were just nowhere where they should have been. The turnovers got the best of them all the time. Willie and Johnny, they buried on their breakaways. But I mean, we got a lot of chances. Domi got several in overtime as well. He's all alone. Um, that could have been a blowout game. It wasn't quite that way, and it was disappointing to give up the 2-goal lead in the last couple minutes there. But it wasn't this epic collapse of embarrassment that some people like to make it seem like on Twitter. And like I said, you're one chuck at the empty net from Willie Nylander from a 5-2 win, and everyone's tune changes. And I just don't agree with the margins being that razor thin.
The big story, too, reading social media, and you're tapped in just as much as I am, was this narrative that it was the ref's fault. Like last time I checked, it was a terrible chintzy call on David Kampf with a 4-2 lead late in that game, but maybe kill a penalty. Like I think it's such a lazy excuse game after game, situation after situation to blame the officials. I think the Leafs just couldn't lock it down. Carolina capitalized, they executed, and obviously I didn't like the call, but like I'm not blaming the loss on that.
Yeah, it didn't help. Without that
No.
penalty, would they have lost? Maybe, maybe not. You certainly it's a chintzy penalty. It's weak. It's at the wrong time. Like to be a ref, to look at that, you're gonna say, if I'm gonna blow my whistle here, it's going to be because just a guy just took a stupid infraction that was obviously against the rules and prevented a scoring chance. I mean, that's at that point in the game, that's what your mindset's got to be. And to put your hand up for that piece of shit is pretty annoying. But there is lots of things you could point to that I just don't like. Yeah, there's 60 minutes being played, and they played 57, 58 of them pretty good, and that was a bad timing for a penalty to be taken. And yeah, you got to kill a penalty, but 6-on-4 is different. You don't practice that. It's difficult. And I thought they were a little bit passive on the kill. They literally, even when it was 6-on-5, they were just completely boxed up, like no pressure at all. I mean, the whole thing is you got to try to get that puck, get possession back, and you could end the game. And they just sit back and said, "Yeah, there, take your shooting gallery shot. We'll just kind of box out with Tavares in the middle." I was kind of like, I thought they'd be a little more aggressive 6-on-5, especially that you're not 6-on-4. So yeah, you got to kill one, but it's difficult 6-on-4. Not something you see all the time. Is what it is, man. Shitty penalty, yeah. Is that the reason they lost? No, but also it's just one of those games, man. The sky was not falling after that. They were in control of a really good team for a long time and didn't really get much. I don't want to say they didn't get any luck or something like that, but the margins were just not that. The difference between everyone saying this team is so solid, let's really break down how good they are the last month and a half, and then this team's garbage, they're going to get swept, the same old bullshit, is the difference between that little 2-minute area. That's bullshit, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I'm a firm believer over an 82 game slate, like things even out. Like, for example, a couple weeks back, they went in a shootout against the New York Rangers. They shouldn't have won that game. I think conversely, you look at this one. Again, I didn't think Carolina was great. I didn't think Toronto was great. Like, they were up 3-0 that game. I'm like, what am I watching? It didn't feel like a 3-0 game. And I think both teams were like very open, very chill, very, very Sunday stroll. Like they went out on Friday night, and maybe they did, but it just had like an eerie feel to that game from puck drop where it's like both sides. Like I lost count of how many breakaways Carolina, one of the better teams in the league, surrendered in that hockey game. And I think Pyotr Kochetkov deserves a lot of credit. I know I just, goofed on Freddy Andersen a bit, but Kochetkov was the right call. Like I think he's the biggest reason why the Canes walk out with the 2 points. It was a 3-0 game, could have been 4-0, 5-0. Like the breakaways were outrageous.
Yeah, it really could have been a blown out. Like I was watching going, my golly, like I was watching with my kid and he's like just yelling, breakaway, Johnny, breakaway is doing. I was like, what's going on over there? And you saw Rod Brindamore's face, like I said, just in disgust. And the fact that they came back and won that game, I think they're pretty lucky. I think he's pretty pleased. And yeah, it's shitty for the Leafs, but they had their way with that team for quite a while. And unfortunately, just at the end of the day, I feel like they just didn't bury on their chances. That's the biggest thing, whether you want to talk about, in general throughout the game while they were getting all those cookies or in overtime when they had their chances to finish it or in the shootout. They didn't quite close the door. And yeah, that's unfortunate, but it's 1 point, like you said, that really probably doesn't even matter in the big scheme of things. You don't want to see that loss, but I just do not think that the sky is falling after that one.
Speaking of which, as you said, we should preface by saying it is a city of Toronto, but what's your level of concern pertaining to the power play in the month of March? One for the last 22, 0 for 4 in the game. I think important to stress that too. They got a peeper in OT and couldn't score. Kochetkov was good. I thought Carolina's PK was really, really good. Special teams in the Stanley Cup playoffs, so important. We've seen that power play snap it around for years. Obviously, it's important to bring up. No Mitch Marner, but what's your level of concern when discussing that power play and their struggles right now, Rosie?
Well, I think you hit it. The biggest thing is no Mitch Marner, and I know it wasn't clicking 100% when he was healthy, but I think that'll help. And it is. It's that the power play of this Toronto Maple Leafs team should be their bread and butter. It should be their absolute weapon. It shouldn't be their detriment or something that they're scrambling to try to fix, but it is. So, and I'm no power play specialist by any stretch of the imagination, but I know when it's struggling, guys, it's kind of a waiting game. You can't really force it. You just got to wait for your chances and opportunities and hope that the floodgates open. But they're going to go out there and they're going to practice it, and they'll go out early to practice and snap it around on the fresh sheet and try to find some different lanes and talk about what if I sink down right here, or if we go to the top, can we go back to where it came from and try to catch them on whatever the hell they do, and try to make something happen. That's all you can do. There's no really magic formula, but it is surprising and disappointing that a team with this much offensive firepower is struggling on the power play. Because, like I said, that should be their bread and butter.
It scares me a bit, man, and I couldn't agree more with you because what's the story every Stanley Cup playoffs? Like I just talked about it, special
Can't
teams
score.
so big. Every postseason they get there, and the graphic going into the postseason, oh, this is one of the top power play units in the NHL. It gets to the playoffs and they can't score in the power play. They can't score in general. Having said that, there's so much star power. Obviously, the Marner thing is huge. Like you take Marner off that power play, it just changes the whole dynamic of the power play, right? Like Nylander's a trigger first, shoot first type guy, less of a setup guy. That's Marner, like Batman and Robin, obviously, with a guy like with Austin Matthews, who for the first time ever over the weekend, like really demonstrative, like tapping his stick, give me the puck, give me the puck. But that's why Marner's Marner. He finds that lane and hits him. But I think there's ups and downs when it comes to the power play and special teams in general, and they're not looking good right now. I think it's just important to find the groove at the right time, feel good going into the playoffs. But I still have that in the back of my brain, man, where they get to the playoffs and they can't score. I don't care about the regular season numbers.
Well, that's the biggest thing, right? Can these
Yeah.
guys get it done in the playoffs? And you can dissect and pull numbers and bitch and moan or glorify them, do whatever the hell you want. But at the end of the day, it's that group in the playoffs that needs to get it done. Is Willie Nylander gonna be an all-star in the playoffs? Is Mitch Marner going to
Hmm.
do what he does and play with some thick skin and get some grind and get some toughness going? Is Austin Matthews going to be this generational goal scorer that he's proven he can be in the regular season in the playoffs? Like those are the big questions. I think if you want to look around at the team, the potential is there. They're getting secondary scoring, which is huge in the playoffs. They're getting goaltending, which is obviously massive. Their defense looks better, even though it's kind of had some hiccups. It looks stronger than it has in the past. It's time to do something with this group. And at the end of the day, it's all for naught if those big boys aren't scoring and if they're not doing what they get paid to do. And they've proven to kind of, I don't know if you want to say choke or just not show up or not have it or grip their sticks a little tight in the playoffs. And they've done that. They've learned their lessons, haha, and it's time to step up and get it done. And like you say, is it playoffs yet? I'm kind of tired of talking about it. Shit or get off the pot. This is the group you've ran it back with. They're good players. They've proven they can be very good. Are you going to step up to the playoffs or are you going to back off because it's a little bit intense and scary? That is completely up to them in that locker room.
Handshake line respect writes in, Keith playing 2 D-men on PP1 is a joke. What did you think of the 2D set? So they went with Riley, Liljegren, Tavares, Matthews, Nylander. We've never seen this before, but Sheldon Keefe going with a new combination, Rosie.
Yeah, to me, that's just trying to mix it up to
Yeah.
get something going. Like we just talked about their record in the last however long, going back a handful of weeks is abysmal, and you're trying to mix it up and get something else going. And when I'm talking about what they can do to get it going, that is one of the things. You mix it up, throw a different guy on there, throw a different look, try to do something that just kind of breaks up the monotony of struggling and see if it gets going. Do I like Liljegren on the point as a first peeper power play guy? No. Is he going to stay there for the year in the playoffs? No. But to me, that's just keep trying to throw some shit at the wall and seeing if it sticks. And not that that's what he wants to go with, but just mixing it up. There's not a lot of options when a power play as talented as theirs is struggling, except just throw some new stuff at it, mix something up, see if you can get a different look, a different lane, a different play going from some other mind out there, and a different set of eyes is all they're trying to do. But is that the position you want to be in right now? No, it's really not. And I hope something clicks and the floodgates open here, because it's not the end of the world that's not going right now, but it's getting to the point where this is the time of the season where you should not be trying to figure out your power play, especially when you're a highly skilled offensive team.
I will say, I mean, we've seen this power play be electric for like 7, 8 years. If you were to ask me what I'm more concerned about, is it the power play that's struggling or the PK? Hands down, it's the PK. I thought they had another rough outing over the weekend. It's been the story as of late. Connor Dewar still trying to find his footing. Ditto for Edmondson. But again, this is why you play, and this is why you create separation in the standings to prepare yourselves for the playoffs, right? Like the last 15 some odd games, I think if you're Sheldon Keefe and you had a checklist, like those are the things: power play, get it going, PK, special teams in general. Like I truly believe in the playoffs, special teams can determine whether you're a team that goes far or you're done quickly in the first round.
Well, if you don't score on the power play and you're getting scored on the kill, you're going to get roasted against some of these playoff teams. And that's just the way it is. And it's a big part of the game. It's a bigger part of the game than I would like to see it. But, they tend to put their whistles away a little bit in the playoffs. But if you go back and look, those numbers are detrimental to the outcome of the series. And they're trying to figure it out. And Liljegren has, he's falling back on the hand that he shoots right now and getting a lot of grace because of it. They are desperate for right-handed defensemen. Connor Timmons is coming back, which is going to be interesting. But I mean, for some, like Simon Benoit has been this nice story who kind of had no expectations, but really stepped up and gave this team what they need. Has been a breath of fresh air in a lot of different avenues of the course of a hockey game, but he's found himself scratched how many in a row now. And realistically, you could swap him out for Lily, but Lily's got that right-handed shot, so it's just not going to be Liljegren. And you want to mix up the power play and try some different things with Morgan Riley? Well, Liljegren's a right-handed shot, so he's got that saving his ass right now. And I don't know if that, he's getting the opportunity, saying we need a guy that shoots your way. Can you step up? Can you be the guy? I don't think he's done it to this point to say you're our dude now, or you're our mainstay, but he's getting the opportunity because of that, luckiness of being a right-handed shot when they desperately need that. So we'll see what happens. I'd like to see Benoit get back in, but yeah, there's a lot of different looks they're trying to make to get these special teams going right now, and it's not exactly happening, but it's not it's not a week before playoffs either.
Man, I watch a lot of NHL hockey around the league, and I do not see a market as much as this one fixated on the whole lefty righty thing on the back end or in general. Like, for example, I watched Colorado over the weekend. I think they had one forward who shot right and they had three defensemen. So, like, four guys total on the roster, on the playing roster that night. I just don't know if it's as big of a deal as they play it out to be. And maybe it's because of the personnel, and maybe teams like Colorado have other guys that are better suited. But as you've talked about it before, specifically on the back end, it's more so like,
Mhm.
is a guy comfortable playing that side, right?
Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, right-handed, left-handed, it's a little bit tougher, breaking out of your zone. You're on the
Yeah.
wall, you're catching it on your backhand, you're exposed to the middle. That's kind of the one thing. But some guys, you're on your one-timer side and they don't mind playing, left wing, right wing if you're depending on which way you shoot. But on the back end, I do think it's a bigger deal. And it's a bigger deal for the Toronto Maple Leafs because they don't have an extremely strong D core. So if you're
Hmm.
always already asking a guy like TJ Brody to play over his head and to play above his pay grade, and you're looking for minutes that maybe he shouldn't be absorbing, and then you ask him to play on his offside, where I mean, when you're gapping up and the way you're pivoting and stuff, if you're on your weak side, it's considerably different, and it's difficult in this league to play in the first place when you're asking to play over your head, and then you go to put on your weak side where everything you're doing is a little bit backwards and on your awkward side. It does make a difference. And no, it shouldn't be the end all be all, but it's definitely been a storyline as they tried to acquire right-handed defensemen, and right-handed defensemen are always so sought after and seem to be an anomaly to get more of them than lefties. And it just is what it is. But yeah, maybe it's been talked about too much, but it just happens to be the story of the day here since the trade deadline.
What do you think of Sammy's outing? Obviously, tough at the end there, but I thought great execution by Carolina. I thought Sammy had some really good stops early on in that game, finishes with 36 saves.
Yeah, he looks solid, man. He's kind of been the go-to. I feel like we haven't even seen Wall. I mean, he came back, had that
No.
who gives a shit game against Arizona, and then both bombs to Boston. I don't feel like he's really been given a good shake to get in there and show himself since his injury, since he got back, which was months long. But thankfully, Sammy's playing really solid. I have confidence in him. He looks poised. I mean, he comes out and challenges. He seems confident. He's giving them a chance to win, no doubt about it. So, all things pretty good. I'm not real worried about the goaltending situation. I do want to see Wool get in there and get an opportunity to get clicking, which I don't really feel like he's gotten. But at the end of the day, again, it's just going to come down to which one of those guys, when you're put in a playoff game, it's game 3, it's game 4, we need a big game out of you. Can you give it to us? Can you make that big save with 4 minutes left in the third? Like, that's just
Yeah.
everything. And right now you look at Sam and you're like, well, he doesn't seem to be struggling. He's not trying to find it. He's not, down on himself. He looks really solid. So it was a good outing for him. And God, his turnaround just continues to be a story.
Yeah, it's marveling to me. Like I'll sit there sometimes and watch and be like, how is this the guy that, remember the first three games of the
Don't know.
season? We're like, who the fuck is this guy? He can't make a save. And then all of a sudden, he's been one of the better goaltenders. Just go look at the numbers. Like, I mean, the last couple months, he has maybe saved this Maple Leaf season. And I never in my wildest dreams would have thought we'd have this conversation 2 months ago where it's like, who starts game one? Is it Wool or is it Samsonov? And I think overwhelmingly in favor of a Samsonov. There is time for Wall. We're going to see him a couple times, I would think, this week. But Samsonov's been a fantastic story. Where do you stand on the shootout? Like, I watch the shootout now, and I'm like, get this over with. I don't care who wins. And then I see Kuznetsov go, and I could probably list about 25 things I can do in the time that Kuznetsov touches the puck to actually gets a shot on goal. It's crazy to me.
Yeah, it's kind of an ugly look. I'm not in love with it. Obviously, I don't know what you can do to stop it. As long as you have the shootout, what are you going to say? There's a time limit on, but I don't know.
Yes.
I guess he's had success with it. It just looks dumb and ugly, and I bet you the goalie's just driven nuts right now. It's so unnatural. There's nothing about coming up through hockey, playing your entire life, where a guy would come down on you like that, which is probably why he does it. It's so odd and awkward, and you're getting that goalie to try to bite on one little thing, and then you have all the time in the world to wait for him to do that. And I get it, but it's kind of ugly, especially when it doesn't work. It looks like shit. It's just one of the things that's wrong with the shootout. I think I really enjoy the 3-on-3. I wish they could play that a little bit longer. I feel like you're seeing more shootouts now as teams get used to this. It's been quite a few years now. I remember when the 3-on-3 overtime came back, it was just insane. It was like 3-on-1 to 2-on-0 to breakaway. Like, oh my God, it was just electric. So they've sort of figured that out and figured out the system that works and what their strategy is in it. So I think you end up with more tie games and then you go into the shootout. But I don't know what the answer is. I don't have a concrete, this is what you need to do to fix it. You got to get the game over with. TV deals and airtime is huge. Like, you can't just continue on like it's a playoff game into the night. I don't know what the answer is, but maybe a time limit clock. Like, why? For what reason? Just because it looks silly to some people. Maybe people love it and say it's awesome and it's a skill. And I don't know, man. It kind of looks dumb to me, and I'm sure the goaltenders absolutely hate it. But when he scores, he looks like a smart guy. When he doesn't, he looks dumb. But that's the same with a lot of different shootout moves. It's I just, when the Leafs get to a shootout, I'm just like, some of the moves they choose, I'm just like,
Oh,
the way you guys score and the talents that you have and the skill set that each player has, and then the move they decide to make sometimes just blows my mind. I'm like how
dude.
is Austin Matthews not fucking just ripping one? Like, pick anywhere you want, 5-hole low blocker, roof one, and just fucking rip that thing by the guy. You're one of the best shooters in the world, and you kind of do this little toey drag Patrick Kane move. It's like, what the fuck was that? And Domi doesn't even have his head up and gets poke checked, and just Nylander kind of, it's just like they never seem to really flourish in the shootout for a guys with like 12, 13, 14 million dollar a year skill level.
It's the most mystifying thing, I think. Firstly, it's a gimmick, so I guess like it's acceptable what Kuznetsov does. Like, it's the goofiest shit ever, but it's perfect for a gimmick, right? So I really can't bitch and complain about that. But that was the one thing I was realizing watching the shootout. How many of the upper echelon players in this league, like, it reminds me of, like, when you play beer league, and I'm not a good player, but when there's good players on the ice and they're playing center, a lot of my buddies growing up, like when I played beer leagues with them and they played good puck, they wouldn't even like try. Like, they wouldn't even try to win the face off. And sometimes they would just win because they're good. Sometimes it feels like Matthews goes out there and he's like, fuck, man, I'd rather be on King West or somewhere else. Like, I don't know if these guys care that much about the shootout. Maybe that's the improper, term to use, but it feels that way where it's like, you're so right. You're Austin Matthews. You're the best goaltender on the planet. You're best goal scorer on the planet, one-on-one with a goalie. And it's like, you just flip it into his pad. Like, it makes no sense how you have all that time and space and you're so prolific at what you do and you can't score. It's really, really weird. It's like it always reminds me of like guys who were like, UC Jokinen was a specialized shootout guy. Like, it makes no sense, does it?
Yeah, it's kind of weird. You some guys are better at it than others, no question. But I know what you mean. I'm careful to say he doesn't care. He
Yeah, I
definitely,
get that.
but I,
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. He's kind of got that ho hum look on his
Yeah.
face. Um, the amount of effort that it looks like he's putting forward looks kind of negligible. But when those guys go down like that and bury, it just looks like he's too fucking good for the game. Did you see
Yeah.
that? Oh my God, he made him look ridiculous. He's so good. But when that type attitude or move doesn't work, it looks like, ugh, like a huge letdown. And the whole team looked like that in the shootout the other night. But yeah, I don't know. I just see Austin Matthews, and he just, like, that was the ice is shitty at the end of a game.
Yeah. Just
You know,
rip
you
it.
don't
Rip
you don't
it.
have good ice to
Yeah.
do that, like, way behind you with the big toey toe pull, like, to do some kind of a Patrick Kane-esque move. I don't really know. It's just like, that's not really your game, Austin. Like, he's
No.
not he doesn't dangle like Bedard out there. He just finds the spot. He's got the quickest release in the world, and he fucking labels them and just roasts goalies. So why that would be the shootout move, which could have been the difference between winning and losing a game, it's kind of a head scratcher, but
Yeah.
it's probably also laughable, me talking to Austin Matthews about what you should do in a shootout. So,
Yeah.
I'm careful to say that a little bit too. But yeah, I don't have a ton of confidence with the Leafs going into a shootout because they seem to have these stinkers like that.
It's very bizarre, and then like they do the same move, and it's like, I know goalies do homework on players, but do players do homework on goalies? Because we saw the Pyotr Kochetkov poke check. He's been doing that for weeks, months, years, and it's like caught the player looking down. I love the play, man. That guy's such an old school goalie. It's really remarkable what he's put together so far in Carolina. But I think the Canes full value, great finish by Jake Gensel going 5-hole there, and Carolina's going to be a very, very scary team come the Stanley Cup playoffs. It was great to see Nick Robertson get on the board. We talked about this last week. Rosie's got to seize that opportunity, similar to Bobby McMahon, plays with Nyes and Tavares. A goal plus two shots on goal, 2 hits, 11:08 of ice for Nick Robertson on Saturday.
Yeah, he did what he needed to do coming into the lineup. And, with Calle Jarnkrok on long-term IR now, is it?
Yeah. Yeah.
He's going to get the opportunity to play more, I would think. I know Connor Timmons, sorry, he's on the back end. So yeah, he will be there and get an opportunity, and he just needs to do what we talked about and seize it. And so far he's done exactly that. And that would be his rebuttal to why I'm getting screwed in Toronto, is because I get scratched for how many games they throw me in. I have a performance like that, so-and-so gets healthy and he's back out of the lineup. That would be his gripe. And I understand that. And that's just life sometimes on the depth chart. But as long as he's having a performance like that and producing, he'll force their hand, and it'll be an easy decision as far as who's playing. Robertson or someone else. He'll put the difficult task as far as, okay, who else are you going to take out, because you can't take me out because of the way I'm performing. So good start for him, and hopefully it continues.
Build off that. That's all I got to say. We know Nick Robertson can score goals, but get in a flurry, 4 or 5 game point streak. Again, to your point, make Sheldon Keefe keep you in the lineup. That's what Bob McMahon has done over the last month. John Tavares, I think, had one of his better outings in recent memory. That's great to see. And did you see who started OT, Rosie?
Camp?
David fucking Camp. We're back in the, I don't know. We're back in the mix with this. And again, this is not shocking to the Sheldon Keefe crowd out there, but I don't know. When you have the star power you have, and there's the potential where they can be on the bench for the winning goal against you, it scares me. I won't lie.
Yeah, I mean, I get the idea that, I'm sure Sheldon thought he was hot. He scored. He's probably seen a lot of good things out of him and felt good about it. He's defensively responsible. And sometimes you get out there with all the studs on the power on the overtime, and they go down on this rush, don't score, and they all hammer the brakes or on the goal line, and it's see you later, because there goes the game. Because absolutely nobody was thinking about being the one guy that stays high or protects. They're all just licking their chops because they're offensive minded players, and if they don't score, they're screwed. And it's happened lots of times. So I get the mind set of, what if we sprinkle in with 2 other studs? We've got so many of them and they're so good. A defensive minded guy like David Camp, who's having a good game, who I'm sure Sheldon Keefe saw a lot of good things out of and wanted to give him that shot. But yeah, also with all the guys sitting on the bench, do you think there's not a better combination you could go with? You'd think so, but he threw him a bone, didn't kill him, but also didn't work out. I don't know. I'm not, it's not the end of the world. The way the Leafs have had and played overtimes before, it's been some head scratchers and some garbage, and he wanted to try something different to see if it worked. I'm not going to lose my mind over it.
Just some news out there as well, courtesy Frank Saravalli. The Flyers announcing Wayne Simmonds has signed a 1-day contract with the team and announces his retirement. So Wayne Simmonds played the last couple years to finish up his career as a member of the Toronto Maple Leafs, a consummate pro. Another prime example of a guy who always wanted to come home and play for his Maple Leafs. Unfortunately, it didn't work out in the end, but congratulations to Wayne Simmonds.
Yeah, I played with Wayne for a while, carpooled with him, know him well. He's a good guy, and I love the way he plays hockey. He's one of the throwbacks, man. Like, who can play, put up the points, play hard, be an asset in playoff series, stand net front on that power play, and then just scrap literally heavy weights in the league. He's a long man. He's got very long arms, and he's got some reach to him, but he's not a big, strong 230 pounder, man. He's just got balls is what he's got. And the way he played hockey was no bullshit, stand up to anything, absolute pure guts. And I really was not scratching my head, but just kind of disappointed that it wasn't working out in Toronto, because Wayne Simmonds in his prime is like everything the Toronto Maple Leafs could absolutely just dive their teeth into. And it just didn't. He just kind of tailed off a little bit and didn't quite have it, and just wasn't able to be as effective as he was in the past. And that's disappointing, but it's nice that he's going to, go back to Philly and kind of have a nice send off and get into his retirement, hopefully on a positive note.
Yep. Kudos to the Wayne train. Over the next couple weeks, we'll try to get him on this podcast. I know some ties to Anthony Stewart, so we'll try our best on that front. This segment is brought to you by Tim Hortons. Roll Up to Win is back for Tim's 60th anniversary. And to celebrate their big year, you can win some big prizes like an all-electric Volkswagen ID4, a sun-soaked Hilton getaway, and cash with a daily jackpot of $10,000. Play today on the Tim's app. As you referenced earlier on, Calle Jarnkrok was placed on LTIR on Sunday night, out week to week with a hand injury. It's funny, we were trying to figure out where the hand injury came from on Friday. We're like, it's got to be a shoulder, but then we watched the replay again and again, and it makes a lot of sense as to the hand.
Yeah, I just piled into the boards with all his weight behind him, and his hand was wedged in between the ice and the boards, and I shattered my thumb that exact same way. It just got piled into the boards and nowhere to go. So that's disappointing. The fact that he's on long-term IR, they think he's going to be back by sometime in April. It's tough because you want to have everyone healthy and ready to rock, and you don't want to have to like chuck him in right before playoffs and see how he feels and pull someone else out who may or may not be doing quite well. It's just not the ideal position, but it's part of the game is what it is. It's you got to move forward and hopefully he heals up and can come back ready to rock.
It's been a tough year for Yarncrok, man. Like he's been hampered
Yeah.
by injury. In fact, I was doing some digging on the numbers. I think over the last 5 seasons, he's only played 60 games once, and that was last year. I think he played 73. But I think this guy's so integral to the success of this team. Just his versatility, playing up and down the lineup, what he brings. I mean, I think he finds chemistry with every lineman he plays really, really quickly, and that's hard to do. Sometimes you just don't mesh with players, and it feels like that's the one great thing I'll say about Yarncrok is like everywhere they put him, he seems to find a level of success. And I think
Yeah.
he's a guy you just can't replace, and you hope that he's good to go for the Stanley Cup playoffs. I think he's bigger. He's more important than people think for this team.
Well, he's so versatile, right? He can play anywhere in the lineup and be effective, and he's one of those few guys that can kind of alter his game. You can step up and play with the big boys and make those plays, or you can go down in the lineup and get dirty and get in front of the net and get get it deep and play simple and be a little bit grindy. But there is a guy who could and hopefully will step up in the playoffs and be one of those kind of where did he come from and holy he was a big piece of their success. And we talk about teams winning series and winning Stanley Cups, and they've always got that guy like from not the star-studded guy, not the highest paid guy, not the guy on the posters, where Yarncrok's kind of a backseat to all that stuff, but he could step up huge and have a big postseason and be a massive, massive impact player for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Again, he's just got to do it.
Sure. Mitch Marner is another guy that I think over the weekend it was said that they expect him to resume skating this week. The team has been concrete. It's maintaining. They're not concerned, but rest assured there's some concern back there. Okay. Like we've seen this so many times with this team where it's like they tell you one thing through the media, but then something else is happening. And any injury at all to Mitch Marner, there's got to be even a smidge of concern, especially an ankle injury, man. Like skating's so important to this guy's game. So I hope everything goes according to plan. I hope they're telling us the truth. And I want to see Marner back soon, man. He's been having a great last couple months.
Yeah, he has. And, there's no secret we've picked on Mitch Marner before. I have. I wasn't in love with the way he plays last season, ever in the playoffs. This year, he seems to have kind of, I don't know what it is. He just seems to be more defined as like that playmaker. And when Austin's as hot as he is, it makes Mitch look better. But you also got to give Mitch credit for, getting that puck to him in so many different situations. And it's kind of almost emerged as okay, that's kind of the 1-2 punch here is Mitch setting up Austin because he's like kind of the premier dish man and Austin's the premier finisher. And before they've kind of gone back and forth on who's doing what, and they've kind of separated themselves on their roles, and it's been working really good. And he hasn't had that oop-de-oop loopy shit street hockey type of mentality this year. He hasn't had those silly like what are you trying to be a highlight reel on Instagram or something plays where behind the back bullshit that's just a huge turnover and totally head shaker. He hasn't had that at all. He's been very solid and a big part of this team's success so far this regular season. So yeah, we've been asking for a while what the level of concern is. It's always been fairly low, but as time ticks on and he's not skating, it starts to boil up a little bit, and you're wondering, okay, I'm hoping that there's not more to the story than meets the eye here. But I'm sure at this point in the season, like we've talked about, we know who we're playing basically. It's not a big jostling through the standings. These points aren't detrimental to our whole year. So there's reason to kind of keep him on the back burner, tell everyone to chill. He's fine, but we're just going to get him at 100%.
Lost in the shuffle of all the roster movement over the last couple of days. Connor Timmons activated. He hasn't played since January 24th with mono. That's tough to come back from. You're joining a moving train, obviously 16, 17 games remaining until the Stanley Cup playoffs. I do not see a scenario where Timmons factors into a postseason roster. Like I think he's a depth guy. Knock on wood, nothing happens to their big boys or anybody on the back end. But I think Timmons is just like insulation. Like he's a guy that you have just in case, and that's about it. I don't know if you feel differently about the player.
Nick, he's a right-handed shot. He's the
I know.
answer.
Throw him in there.
Yeah, I think that's why they want to get him in there and try some things out. But he's had times where he's played really well. But
Yes.
I know what you mean. He's probably not like the savior to the back end. And thank God we have him back. And now everything's going to be fixed up on, the power play and the defensive zone and blah, blah, blah. So, yeah, we'll see what he does when he gets in there. But I think that they're happy to have another right-handed shot. And that's why they're giving him a chance for sure.
I want to see when he gets in there too. Again, that's tough to come back from that. Like he missed pretty much 2 months, and mono is
A
like
lot.
nothing to sneeze at sometimes. As somebody who
Yeah.
dealt with it and was in the hospital like a decade ago, it's tough, and especially when you're a pro hockey player and playing for the Leafs. Like there's a lot that goes in there. So maybe we see Connor Timmons at some point this week. The following segment brought to you by Douglas. Named Canada's best mattress on Canadian living. Douglas is loved by more than 200,000 Canadians, and they're backed by over 10,000 five-star reviews. Every mattress order comes with a free comfort sleep bundle, 2 memory foam pillows with pillow protectors, 1 luxurious cotton sheet set, and 1 mattress protector. Order today at douglas.ca/LMT. That's douglas.ca/LMT. Looking forward to the week ahead. So 2 sets of back-to-backs. So Tuesday at Philly, Wednesday at Washington, Saturday home to Edmonton, Sunday at Carolina. First and foremost, what would you do goaltending-wise? They're obviously going to split, but who starts in Philly on Tuesday?
I don't know. It doesn't line up beautifully. Like, I'm looking at 2 sets of back-to-backs. Kind of weird. Like, I want to give Wool a chance in there. So, but do you want to play him against the Oilers or do you want to play him against the Hurricane? Tough to say. I might go Wool, Sammy. Um, that kind of makes sense.
Yeah.
None of them are playing a back-to-back, obviously. I think maybe Wool's time against the Flyers to get him going here. Give Sammy the Caps, and then hopefully Wool has a good game. And then against the Oilers, they're obviously offensively talented. You go in there and have a big solid game, and then leave the Hurricanes kind of redemption for Sammy again, maybe something like that. But at the end of the day, I don't really look at that and see anything that tells me that it matters one way or the other. You just want to give them both a shot, Wool specifically, and Sammy's kind of just been playing solid, so it doesn't really matter to me in a big way when I look at it.
Yeah, I don't want to overthink it either. I think I would start Joseph Woll on Tuesday, and I think you can make the excuse if you want to. Wednesday, Ilya Samsonov, former Washington Capital, the revenge angle, so he goes in there and
Right.
plays them. And I think I think in a perfect world, you give both goaltenders a chance to play with a fresh team, which means Woll plays Tuesday against Philly. You go Sammy Wednesday, then Saturday, Hockey Night in Canada. Ilya Samsonov gets a shot at redemption after the Leafs were flat in that game a couple months back in Edmonton where they were looking good. Then they stopped playing and Edmonton comes back and win that game. So maybe you give Samsonov that start and you go to Woll on Sunday against Carolina. But I wouldn't overthink the whole process. The one thing I would think about is finding a way to get Simone Benoit back. Like this is ridiculous at this point, especially when you watch TJ Brody night in and night out. You're like, how is Simone Benoit not playing?
I know they've just got their eggs in the Brody basket. They're kind of committed to him. He's more of a veteran, I guess, making 4.5 or whatever. It just seems like he's kind of a mainstay on there. But yeah, he has some blunders, and you want to kind of get his minutes down. But does scratching him, it's tough, man. It's just, Simon Benoit right now is kind of a victim of circumstance, which we've talked about. I've been there before. It's just like it's nothing that you've done, but there's just other guys that we've penciled ahead of you. It's not ideal, but I agree with you. I want to find a way to get him back in the lineup because he has been, a shining piece of this back end all season long. He's been fairly consistent. He's not a big world beater, but he plays strong, he plays hard, plays simple. He gets in there physically and kind of, finishes his checks and knocks guys around in the corner and clears the front. So I like him, and I think everybody does, but unfortunately, he's just kind of hanging on the depth chart there just due to reputation, contract. I don't know what it is exactly, but I just don't know if they want to be scratching TJ Brody at this point in the season.
Yeah, I get that, but Benoit has earned this opportunity. I
I
really,
agree.
truly feel that way. Like you talk about most consistent defenseman outside of
I know.
Morgan Riley, it's been Simone Benoit. And to that point, I think he's like the prototypical guy you want in the playoffs. Like I love the Edmondson pickup. I think he's going to be a mainstay. I thought Saturday was a rough outing for Ilya Lyubushkin. Like I think there are ways to filter in a guy like Simone Benoit. Like he doesn't have to play every game in the playoffs, but I need to see him in that first round matchup, whether it's Florida, whether it's Boston. I just think he brings some different intangibles to the table. And I think he's been reliable. To me, I don't know, this whole accountability thing that we've been discussing for 2 months. It's like, how can you pick your spots in your battles? It just makes no sense. Like how Brody can make mistake after mistake and he never leaves the lineup. There's never any repercussions. It's like, it reminds me a lot of Justin Hall in his time last year with the Leafs, where it's like, fuck, let's keep putting him in there. Like maybe this will be the game where Simone
Don't
Benoit makes
remind
one
me.
mistake and they take him out because he's on a 1-year deal and he wasn't supposed to be this guy. I just don't think that's the proper way to attack a situation like this.
No, I agree. It's not fair. And I firmly believe I think he will be, and he certainly should be in the lineup in game one of the playoffs.
Mhm.
Whether giving some other guys chances to get their stuff going, especially the new guys, figuring out, what it's like in Toronto, what the system is, what the other players are, and getting some feet under them. And they're not going to scratch the new guys they just traded for, obviously, in the trade deadline. But, yeah, it's just the way the goddamn game works, man. And it's not fair. He's a younger guy with less pedigree, with less contract. And yes, it's not fair. And yes, he doesn't deserve to come out, but it's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes. But they need to figure out what they're going to do to get him in the playoffs and make sure that he's playing and who's coming out. And you got to make that decision. And if the decision is that Benoit's not playing in the playoffs, then I 100% agree with you. They have buggered this up and it's wrong.
Politics, man, politics. That's all I could subscribe to that theory. The Betano wrap-up presented by Betano.ca. The game starts now, 19 plus. Please play responsibly. Major announcement. Betano is the official partner of Copa America 2024, taking the beautiful game to new heights in the Americas. Join Betano on their journey of passion, unity, and unforgettable football moments. Just a 2-game slate in the NHL on this Monday. I'm not crazy about it, I'll be honest. Buffalo's been hot. They're taking on Seattle, 2 teams going for a playoff spot. So maybe you look at the 3-way and that game to go to OT. Maybe that's a look. Calgary, Washington, maybe an Alex Ovechkin goal. Dustin Wolf's been a great story. So maybe you take the saves prop there, but I'm not enamored with the 2-game card tonight. I'll say that.
I know. I'm gonna go to that Flames game tonight with
Yeah, you are. Your boy Ovi, man.
my boy Ovi.
We told the story on the podcast a couple months ago. You had a run-in with Alex Ovechkin last year in Vegas. So
Did I tell that story?
you did. We told you said it like a month ago.
It's a blurry story. I don't know what he was doing in there at 2:30 in the morning, but yeah, I don't know shit. Maybe just they're very similar teams, huh? Interesting. Yeah, I don't have a big bet. I keep forgetting to get a solid bet down for the Betano wrap up, but I'll be cheering for the Flames tonight. So take from that what you will.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, you're anti-Ovechkin. We love that, but he's going to get that record until he's like 65 years old. He'll still be in the NHL chasing that record. Probably not. It'll probably come in a couple years from now. So we'll leave it at that for today. Again, getting set for a 4-game week for the Maple Leafs. 2 sets of back-to-backs, Tuesday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday. So coming up tomorrow, we'll tee up Leafs Flyers. You would have to think a bit of retribution is coming. John Tortorella back in the mix. And we're going to have Carlo Koliakovo of TSN Radio, former Maple Leaf, former Flyer, drop by tomorrow. Get his thoughts on this team.
Carlo Koliakovo, always the most interesting name to say in the history of the National League. So that'll be good. Game day. Looking forward to it, dude.
You didn't play with him, right?
No, I didn't.
You missed him, I think, by a couple years, right?
Yeah, maybe 2. I'll have to check.
Yeah. Yeah.
Heard good
I
things.
know
Heard good
Coco
things.
played 33 games as with Philly, finished his career with Buffalo, but played a lot with the Toronto Maple Leafs. So we'll get his thoughts coming up tomorrow. Rosie, we'll leave it at that. Talk tomorrow, bud.
Love it. See you then.
Boom. There you have it. That's Jay Rosehill. Thank you to everybody in the chat at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that subscribe button. Hit that like button for Jay Rosehill. I'm Nick Alberga. Many thanks to producer Vic as well. We love him. Take care. Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.